In this video, I'll talk you through 5 tech jobs that pay over 100k that don't require any coding experience. I'll explain what each job entails, the salary range, the pros and cons of each role, all to help you make the best informed decision about which of these roles you would like to explore further. But before I begin, please subscribe for more tips on how to achieve your career and life goals. Tech is a multi-billion-dollar industry and it's one of the fastest growing industries in the world. So it's no wonder why they're also one of the highest paying industries in the world. But many of us are put off because we think we need coding to work in this industry when the reality is only a fraction of roles in this industry actually require coding experience. So here's a breakdown of my top 5 non-coding tech jobs that pay over 100k. Now, a product manager oversees the entire process of planning, designing, creating and launching new products for a company. Their role is to ensure new products deliver value for customers by solving problems and improving processes with the ultimate aim of delivering financial value to their business. So they own the overall vision, strategy and roadmap for all big product launches for their businesses. Now you might be thinking, what is a product launch? Well, a product launch can be different for different businesses. For Instagram, for example, it's them launching Reels. That's a new product for them. For Apple, it might be launching a new physical product such as an iPhone, or it might be launching a new digital product such as Apple Pay, which is amazing. For a car manufacturer, it would be launching a new model of their cars. So a product launch is a different thing for different businesses. But when looking at tech, it tends to be a digital product launch. So think of a website, an app, or a piece of software, for example. Now here's where it gets interesting. So let's look at the salary range for a product manager. So it's anywhere between $50,000 to $600,000 a year. Now that's a great salary range. You've got very good prospects clearly if you work as a product manager. So let's look at the pros and cons. And by the way, these are all subjective. Some of my pros might be your cons and vice versa. Just use these to help form your personal decision and don't be offended at what I think because it's, what I think, right? My personal thoughts. I think there's a few pros here. So I think 1, you get to work with different teams, so you get that exposure. Secondly, you get a chance to be quite creative and add clear value to your business with what you're doing, which is great. You don't always get that in a lot of roles. So that's very positive. And it's got a great career path. Like I said, I think people are always looking for product managers. The skills are quite transferable. Great pay package as well. Clearly, if you work in that industry long enough, you've got great prospects to do very well for yourself financially. When it comes to the cons, I'd say there's probably a real pressure on product managers to create products that drive profit for the business. And lastly, I'd say it's a very high pressure job. As you can imagine, you're working to super tight deadlines. There's always that question around what's next after you've launched one product, what's the next big launch going to be? So bear these things in mind if this is something that you want to consider. Next on my list is user experience, or UX for short. A UX professional's role is to deliver the best possible experience for users, whether that be on a website or application, by making them as straightforward and as easy to use as possible. So for example, if you're building a website, it would be their job by making the website navigation simple and clear. So think of websites such as Airbnb and Duolingo as good examples of UX done right. When talking about UX, there are a few roles that fall under this umbrella, and they tend to have plenty of overlap. But 2 prominent roles under UX are UX researcher, whose role is to study consumers' needs and expectations by conducting research and analyzing the data to provide recommendation on areas of focus. And the other is UX designer, whose role is to understand the user's needs well and bring an appropriate solution to life. A key difference here is they're also expected to be quite good at design, as they're expected to create mock-ups of potential solutions that they create. So the salary range for a UX professional is between 80k to 300k. Again, very good, promising, dependent on how experienced you are in this field. So a great career to look into if you're after a good salary. And then on to the pros and cons. So for me, UX is a really in demand job. It's always in very high demand. So if this is an area you're looking to pursue, there'll be no shortage of jobs for you. I'd actually go as far as saying this job is almost future-proof. And on many occasions, it's been called the unicorn of tech jobs because it's so popular and so crucial to how the tech industry works. In terms of cons, it's a non-client facing role. So if you thrive on working with clients, that's not what you're going to do. You're not going to get that kind of praise for it. There's also generally less exposure, so you tend to work with a smaller group of people and teams. And my last con is it requires a lot of patience plus attention to detail. So these are kind of things that you have or you don't. So if that's not you, then it's probably not the role for you. If you do, then great. This is definitely one worth looking into. And third on my list is project manager. Project managers in the tech world are typically tasked with supporting with their biggest projects. These tend to be product launches in most cases, and their role is to ensure that these things are all executed on time and that they follow the roadmap to a T throughout every stage of the process. So this job requires you to work with multiple teams, different people, including leadership in a lot of cases as well as their big projects. And it also requires you to have a certain degree of motivation skills, as you will need to push people to hit tight deadlines. And you have to do this in a way where you don't harm your relationship. With that in mind, it's really important for project managers to ensure team members have the same shared vision and goals for every project they work on. Now let's look at the salary here. The salary range for a project manager in tech specifically is between $80K to $130K. Again, do well here, you're gonna hit six figures. So on to the pros and cons of a project manager. So for me, the first thing really is, it's a straightforward role. It doesn't require any technical expertise at all, which is a great start for a six-figure job, right? I'd also say the role can be very rewarding because you're working on big projects from start to finish. That's great. You can see your big projects come to life, and this is great, especially if you are a very organized person, which leads me well onto my cons. If you are not a naturally very organized person, this is probably not the role for you. You need to have this and to like it if you want it to be your day job and have a long, sustainable career as a project manager. My other con here is success that tends to depend a lot on how much you can get from other people. So can you push people to hit their deadlines? Can you push them to do that, but then also deliver the maximum level of work that you expect? So it can be quite challenging in that sense. And I think sometimes you can also be seen as the bad guy when you're pushing to get things done, but you might come across as pushy, but all you really want to do is make sure all your projects are staying on track. And finally, I think there's probably less growth potential in this role versus some of the other roles that I've got on this list. So again, something to bear in mind. And now we're on to fourth on my list is user interface designer, or UI designer for short. So as we discussed earlier, in a user experience role, your job is to understand customers' needs and make your app or website or product as simple to use as possible. The role of a user interface designer is to make your product, app, or website look great, ensuring that the design complements the user experience. So UX makes sure it works well and is user-friendly, while UI makes sure it looks good without harming how well it works. So let's have a look at the money here. So the salary range for a UI professional is anywhere between 69 to 180K for the year. Pretty impressive. And then on to the pros and cons. I think for me, it's a great job if you like to be very creative. You can be that. It's amazing. Again, it's another job in very, very high demand. I don't see this job dying out anytime soon, and it's a great career path to pursue. Cons, it does require a high attention to detail and you having some sort of passion for talent or some creative flair. If you don't have either, again, it's not really the role for you probably, so I'd look elsewhere. But again, just my thoughts, my opinions to bear in mind when you are making your decisions. And last but not least on my list is a IT business analyst. IT business analysts review and assess companies' operations, systems, products, and services in order to suggest how they could save costs and how they could operate more efficiently. For example, a company might have 3 pieces of software they're using for one big product launch. An IT business analyst might find one piece of software that does the same job as all 3, thus saving the company money on paying for those 2 extra licenses, and also saving them time as they've only got to use one piece of software now. Business analysts are often responsible for creating an in-depth analysis of the business, outlining problems. They have a big focus on numbers and are very much involved in budgeting, forecasting, planning, monitoring, and reporting. Salary-wise, if you are looking to become an IT business analyst, you can expect to secure a role for anywhere between 52K to 117K. Now, my pros and cons here very quickly. So I think 1, it's a great role if you want to tackle a variety of projects that are all quite different from each other. You get to work towards really clear, obvious objectives, which is great. You know, you've got clarity on what you do and what success looks like. You can make a real tangible impact on your business with what you're doing. Cons, I think, meetings. If you're an IT business analyst, you're gonna have a lot of meetings. So brace yourself because winter is coming for real. If that's not your thing, step away. Client meetings might also be happening a lot if you're an IT business analyst. And lastly, there are also a lot of tight deadlines for IT business analysts. So another thing to bear in mind, if you don't like working to sort of in a high pressure role, then perhaps again not the one for you. So those are my top 5 tech jobs that pay over 100k and don't require you to code. Please like this video and let me know in the comments which of these tech jobs you like the most. And hopefully this video will inspire you to get the tech job of your dreams. For more tips on how to achieve your life and career goals, click on the video on screen right now. Thanks for watching and let's keep chasing those goals.